I would add the comment. Brian and I worked on a couple large manufacturing companies, and we're always kind of surprised at who chooses to go offshore and who does not. We do a tremendous amount of these captives domiciled in Delaware. Delaware has been obviously corporate friendly as a state for 150 years. Brian and I know the head of the captive division of the Department of Insurance, Steve Kevin. He comes to Denver about every 6 months and buys me lunch and says, why don't you just send all your business to us? But there's about 10 states that we work in. These are states that are very proactive and understand it. But the real consideration for moving offshore is really the creditor protection. Because if everything went to heck in a handbasket and you've got trouble and you have creditors chasing you, it's a lot harder to domesticate a judgment in Nevis and Guelph or BVI than it is Delaware or Montana or Utah. And so it's really a consideration. The real consideration of going offshore is the extra creditor protection. Brian, go ahead, please.
That's right. I think that's very common. We've done a lot of large soccer groups in Florida where that has been a trend for setting up captives offshore for the asset protection, and even seeing some customers set up some offshore trusts to further enhance that asset protection. We had Annette. She asked about self-procurement tax, specifically in Texas. Of course, Texas is a state that is, I won't say retaliatory for self-procurement tax, but it is one state that does look at that closely. But let's make sure that the group understands self-procurement tax is when a customer, an insured, goes out and procures the coverage directly from the captive. And if the captive is deemed to be conducting business in that state where the risk resides, then you would pay the self-procurement tax, which generally ranges from 3 to 5% in most states. Some folks refer to this as surplus lines tax, but it is what we call self-procurement tax. Self-procurement tax is one of those things that customers need to understand when they get into these transactions, that it's out there. I have not seen the states generally go after the self-procurement tax. It's something that could change. It would change the economics, obviously, significantly if you're adding on 3 or 5% additional cost on these programs. But again, I have not seen the states really go after that. So it's one of those things that is a risk-reward issue. Do you want to pay the tax, be above board, go ahead and do that? Or, are we going to try to operate the captive out of the domicile, attend the board meetings, make sure bank statements aren't mailed to the insured, policy issuance is done out of the captive domicile? Are we really going to try to make sure that that captive is operated out of the captive domicile in order to pay the self-procurement tax? That's just something that has to be looked at a case-by-case situation. We also had
Brian, Brian, I don't think we have any captives that we worked with that are paying self-procurement tax, or you're more on the administration side, but can you remember, or do you know of anybody that we've worked with that is actually paying that? I don't.
We've had some. I've actually had a few in New York pay the self-procurement tax because specifically I had a customer that was writing, they had a cab company, and they were leasing their cabs, leased to own their cabs throughout Manhattan. And they actually charged the property, the auto physical damage, they were charging that expense to each of the drivers